Hello Summoners and welcome to another episode of OP Pick or Ban. My name is Christoph and today we've got a new roster of picks alongside some familiar faces that you need to watch out for this patch. By the end of this video, you should be well equipped and know exactly what you need to pick or ban in patch 9.16. Let us know down below if you guys have any feedback or comments. We're always reading them. And if you guys think we missed a champion, then make sure to let us know. We hope this video helps you guys out in the current meta, and we hope you guys start winning some more games. If you guys are playing ranked games, then please check out ProGuides.com where we design courses to get your play to the next level, and we have a ton of challenger coaches to help you guys out. So if that interests you, please click the description link below. All right, now let's jump right in. Kicking off the top lane, our first pick is going to be Darius. He's been a popular as well as dominant pick for several patches now. He's extremely difficult to beat in 1v1s, snowballs hard, and is an unstoppable teamfight threat when fed. Most champions that beat him are ranged ones that need to kite him. Especially in lower elos, players won't have the mechanical skill to properly avoid aggression and can easily fall victim to his raw damage. On top of that, very few melee champions have stronger all-ins or the tools necessary to trade well versus Darius. When playing against one, it sometimes feels like it's impossible to farm. To quote one of our Challenger analysts, I finally hit Challenger once I started banning him every game. Alright, how do you play Darius? Well, when playing Darius, pressure your opponent for every minion they go for. Any trade you attempt, make sure to extend it. Use your W to slow if they walk into melee range, or lead with a pull and prepare to all in. Alternatively, you can lead with Q and try to poke your opponents since it has a longer range than an auto attack. You want to go for long trades because your auto attacks and the blade of your Q apply stacks of your passive. Once you apply 5 stacks to an enemy, you gain an enormous AD buff and also cause them to take significant amounts of damage over time. At level 6, you also gain your ultimate, which will significantly boost your kill pressure. In games where your opponent plays extremely passive, freeze the wave or slow push it to deny your opponent some farm. When opportunities are available, you can also look to roam mid or invade the enemy jungle. Alright, now on to our next champion, Jax. This patch, Jax received a buff to his Q, lowering its early cooldown by 2 seconds. While this might seem small, it's important to note that in previous patches, Jax would have an 8-second cooldown on his Q after putting 3 points into it. This would usually be by level 10 in most cases. As a result, this buff can be interpreted in 2 ways. His Q has a shorter cooldown until level 10, or you can max E second instead, while still having a pretty short cooldown on Q. Jax is a champion who can capitalize on mistakes really well as a result of his strong all-in and skirmish. And on top of this, he scales like an absolute monster and often 1v9s games where he gets fed. Depending on matchups, you'll need to play aggressively with your Counter-Strike or sit back and farm up until you have your items. Counter-Strike is an amazing trading tool. Your opponents don't have much choice other than backing off when you're casting it. If they initiate fights with you while it's off cooldown, you can get some free auto attacks in and then jump on them later if they try to disengage. Returning for yet another patch, Kled is back again. We talked about him in our patch 9.15 episode, so you can learn more about the specifics of him over there. In general, however, his strengths are just too strong in solo queue. He has tons of kill pressure, dives really well, snowballs hard, and can initiate fights extremely well. Pick him up and spam him before he gets nerfed if you're not going to ban him. This patch also debuts Pantheon's rework. Although his kit has changed significantly, he's still the same identity. In regards to our series title, we're going to emphasize the ban part here. Our analysts highly suggest taking him off the table because you probably don't want someone first timing him on your team either. Alright, now let's move on to the jungle. Nunu's been absolutely killing it on the Rift. Without any significant changes this patch, we think he's going to continue to outperform his peers in the jungle. As a result of his safety, hard engage, utility, and objective control, there's honestly not much Nunu doesn't bring to the table. While the days of one-shotting entire teams with his ultimate are long gone, and he might not seem to be the type to 1v9 games, Nunu carries games in a much more subtle way. He ganks for his laners well, and can easily secure Dragon or Baron during crucial smite fights, and on top of this, he's extremely difficult for enemy junglers to kill. His ability to heal from consume and gain extra stats from Aftershock allow him to survive through many different situations. While we've previously talked about him as a strong counter pick in other videos, it's pretty clear from his various statistics that he's definitely a champion who can be strong in almost any situation. For players looking for someone less volatile but still able to dominate the jungle, make sure to add Nunu to your champ pool. As predicted, Kha'Zix has taken the Rift by storm following a small buff last patch. We've mentioned Hecarim recently as well, but both of these champions are still solid picks who snowball their way to victory anytime they pull ahead. Alright, now on to our final champion in the jungle. It's going to be Nidalee. Nidalee is a pick that's been slept on for far too long. We definitely can't ignore a pick like her whenever she's relevant, agile, and able to clear the jungle quickly. Experienced players can single-handedly take over games with her. Nidalee can be so oppressive to play against while behind. Since she's extremely mobile, she's able to chase down any opponent she tags. This also means that she can pounce over a wall to get out of any sticky situation she finds herself in. When you play Nidalee, make sure to take advantage of her range and mobility whenever you play her. You can kite or chase down any opponent you find in the jungle with red buff, and another perk of your mobility is that you can travel to different parts of the map and sacrifice less than you would with other junglers. Use this to bully out your opponent anytime you pull ahead and take away any breathing room they hope to have. With that being said, let's get on to the mid lane. Kassadin is receiving a huge buff on his W this patch. He's one of those champions that people really need to watch out for. Especially with a buff like this, it's entirely possible that a situational pick like Kassadin becomes meta. He's going to trade so much better in melee matchups, and he's also going to have a stronger all-in throughout the entire game. Kassadin is a ticking time bomb. He's a great champion because he wins basically any game where he doesn't fall behind. Whenever possible, make sure to pick Kassadin as a counter pick. If you do pick him blind and end up in a bad matchup, consider taking Barrier, Exhaust, or both paired alongside Unsealed Spellbook. If you can survive and scale up, there's basically no other mid laner who will be able to match the amount of pressure you possess later on in the game. One of Kassadin's weaknesses is his lack of wave clear. In the early game, you'll usually need to allow your opponents to dictate the flow of the wave and reactively farm. In easier matchups where they can't poke you well, you can spam your Q to slowly chip away at their health. If you can get them low enough, they'll eventually have to give you lane priority, otherwise potentially fall victim to a solo kill. Make sure to abuse your insane late game strength by split pushing throughout the game. You'll be able to pick up farm, pressure the map, and also 1v1 opponents easily since you can chase them down with your ultimate. Whenever you get collapsed on, your ultimate will make it difficult for your opponents to secure kills, and you'll be able to waste their time in the process. Our next pick is going to be Fizz. His win rate and popularity are nothing short of amazing, and with good reason too. Like most champions who find success in solo queue, he's able to snowball hard and has a lot of playmaking tools. Fizz is difficult to play early on because his main escape tool is also a significant part of his damage. When your jungler is nearby, take advantage of it and trade aggressively. Although it is his main defensive tool, Fizz's E is an excellent ability to trade with. With it, you can simultaneously dodge abilities while dealing a decent amount of damage. When maxing E, your wave clear as Fizz is very efficient. It just puts you at risk of getting ganked while it's on cooldown. Use wards or clear the wave when your jungler is nearby. When roaming, don't underestimate Fizz's potential to tower dive. His ult covers a large radius when thrown from max range, and he can also drop tower aggro with his E. Come the mid to late game, play like any other assassin. Sweep, buy pinks, and look for picks. Off those picks, look to force objectives or bait your opponents to walk into Fog of War and make more picks. Filling a similar niche, Echo is also finding his way onto our OP list. He's received a small buff on his E and a bigger buff on his ultimate, lowering the cooldown significantly in the late game. What this means is that his kill pressure will be slightly more potent throughout the entire game, and that he can play much more aggressively in the late game. What makes Echo great is his wave clear and safety as an assassin. While it's rather difficult to actually deal damage with his ultimate, it serves as a great get-out-of-jail-free card. With the cooldown being lowered so much, players can look for assassination attempts more often, or simply look for poke and use his ultimate to get out. Since its cooldown is low, he'll have no problem using it more liberally, kind of like how LeBlanc does. Make sure to take advantage of his strong diving power as well. Since he's also equipped with good safe wave clear, you can look to push in your lane and roam to side lanes to dive enemies under their turret. With your ultimate, you can tank a bunch of turret shots and ult out to avoid death. That covers our mid laners, so let's move on to the bot laners. Our first pick for the bot lane is going to be none other than Caitlyn. The last buff she received was in patch 9.12, where she received 2 base AD. Aside from that, she hasn't really gotten much love, but this patch is an indirect buff to her. With Biscuit Delivery receiving a huge nerf, bot laners will have less sustain. When they have less sustain, it's only natural for a champion like Caitlyn to thrive. We've also seen some more competitive play out of her recently, showing that even professional players value her as a pick. Caitlyn has only a few matchups where she outright loses, and she can pretty much bully almost every opponent with her oppressive range advantage. When playing as Caitlyn, you should really look to pressure for turret plating and first tower in most games. As a result of your range advantage and strong trading, it's pretty easy to take lane priority and control the wave with her. Make sure to poke your opponents anytime they overextend for farm. If you can create health advantages, continue to pressure your opponents under tower or call for tower dives. Later into the game, you'll want to take advantage of your long range and traps. You can set up sieges or place them near neutral objectives to find favorable fights. Our next pick is Varus. We mentioned him as an OP pick in patch 9.14, but we wanted to bring him up here for similar reasons as Caitlyn. With a nerf to biscuit delivery, Varus' ability to poke out his opponents will be even more meaningful. It's difficult to deny Varus farm because of the long range on his Q. Even in losing matchups, he can still pick up farm. In most cases, however, he can bully out opponents by landing a few Qs and pressure with health advantages. Another change resulting for this patch is Sivir's nerfs. Since she's weaker, Varus will become an even stronger pick, whether it's because he'll have an easier time versus her or because he sees his more favorable matchups more often. It really hasn't been very long since we last mentioned her, but Xayah is back as one of our OP picks for the patch. Sivir nerfs also mean that Xayah will have a much easier time in the bot lane. As a solid laner and a strong safe pick for the late game, there's no question that Xayah is a champion you must pick or ban this patch. During lane, look for opportunities to trade with your Q or W. You can try to stack up your feathers and potentially route your targets to extend trades or just deal some extra damage. What's great about Xayah is that she can take both short and long trades fairly well. Make sure to consider what kind of trades your opponent wants and try to do the opposite so that you can trade favorably. Alright, now let's end off our video with the supports. Alright, so we're going to start off with Pyke and Nautilus. Unfortunately, there's nothing really new to see here. We're choosing Pyke and Nautilus for this patch. They've both been pretty strong picks for several patches now. Pyke received a buff 2 patches ago that increased the amount of gold he received for assists, with his ultimate leading to his complete dominance as a pick. Nautilus packs a huge punch and brings a ton of kill pressure in lane as well. Both of these champions are aggressive picks who can continue to snowball games and make picks throughout the game. Alongside other aggressive supports, they'll definitely be happy to see enemy marksmen have less sustain. They'll have more kill pressure as a result of this, but the dominance of these two picks in particular make them strong candidates to carry games. And that's it for the supports. That concludes this episode of OP Pick or Bans. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys want more content like this to help you improve, then check out ProGuides.com, where we've teamed up with pro players to create guides designed to take your game to the next level. Also, keep a close eye on our YouTube channel, where we're constantly updating with new content just like this. Thank you guys so much for watching. Good luck in your next few games, and we'll see you on the Rift.